were serious students. In fact, I was under the misguided intention that just because you went to Harvard or Penn or Columbia or any of those schools that you were smarter than me. And as my own business acumen evolved, I started realizing that wasn't true. They were just better students than I was. And as a business person and a student, I evolved. I wanted to play football. That's why I went to college. I did very well in school, but I didn't try. I got a scholarship to play football in college because I could run fast, really scared. I had a big mouth and ran away from people a lot. But very soon after getting run over a lot in football, I decided, as I laid there on my back with someone's footprint in my chest, that doctor, lawyer, or failure may be the best way to go. And so I was going to go to med school, like my oldest brother, visited him and realized I hated hospitals. My brother told me a very valuable lesson when I told him I hated hospitals, but yet was pre-med. He told me to be more interested than interesting. And later on in my life, I ran the most notable sports agency in the world, which we'll get into how difficult ethics are when you run a sports agency. And so many kids still today come up to me and say, "Oh, Mr. Meltzer, I want to be just like you. I want to be a sports agent. I want to do this." And I say to myself, be more interested than interesting. I didn't even know I want to be a sports doctor. I didn't know you had to be in a hospital at all when I was 18 years old to be a sports doctor. So everything in my life from that point on, I started to become a student of. I'm a student of my calendar. I'm a student of my relationships. I'm a student. I'm home from teaching second grade, loaded us up into a station wagon, packed our dinners, and filled turnstiles with greeting cards so I could eat. So in my mind, ethically, that's where my personal values lied, was I was doing the right thing. What I care if, the birds had oil on them in the Gulf. So interesting enough, though, the universe provided me another opportunity. I got offered a job to sell legal research online. This is before the internet was really known. I went to my mom and asked her what I should do without blinking. And my mom's one of the most ethical people you'll ever meet. Without blinking, my mom said, for sure, be an oil and gas litigator. You need to be a real lawyer because this internet thing is a fad. Now, I know this is a business ethics class, but think about, my mom's probably one of the most honest people, self-sacrificing, nicest people. She changes lives without making any money. But without blinking, her own self-interest was still in mind, right? My security, my success. And even at that time, there was no consciousness about, hey, you should use your skill set to do something else other than ruin our environment or protect people that may, do wrong. At that time, if I would have been offered $1 million to be a criminal lawyer to defend cocaine dealers, I probably would have done it. That's where I stood. And I probably would have justified it by saying, I just want to buy my mom a house and a car because she sacrificed so much. So people have varying levels of value. They have personal values, they have experiential values, they have giving values and receiving values. And I think understanding those four values as you evolve, and your values will change, and they don't have to be balanced. One of the biggest misguided things is you have to live a balanced life. 25% of your life will be spent on your personal values, your health, love, character, integrity. 25% experiential, 25% giving, 25% receiving. That's my philosophy. Anyway, money-driven Dave got out of law school. I took the internet job. I learned a valuable lesson. I went back to my professor who recommended me for the job. He was the head of maritime law here. He wrote the Louisiana treaties, the civil treaties. He was a multimillionaire. He published his book with West Publishing, which is who started Westlaw. And I asked him about the internet being a fad. And he told me, you know what, just appease your mom, take the bar, tell her that you'll give it 1 year. But if you're not good at this, then, go be a real lawyer. And sure enough, I realized that just because somebody loves me doesn't mean they give me good advice. So just because someone cares about you doesn't mean they give you good advice. The valuable lesson is go to people who have situational knowledge. Don't ask a second grade teacher who had never used a computer about whether the internet would be a great fiscal opportunity for myself, right? I went to the guy who worked for the publisher and understood the business issues involved, had been in legal research and law for a long time. And I think you'll learn asking for help from the right people is the most valuable thing you can do wherever you go. It takes radical humility to do it because you're actually telling someone you don't know what you don't know. I'm 51 years old and I ask for more help than I ever have in my life. From there, 9 months out of law school, I was a millionaire. And my business ethics changed the minute I bought my mom a house, a car, and paid off my law loans. My perspective changed. To give you an idea, some of you may feel this way sometimes. When I was in the third year of law school here, I had a full scholarship to college. I didn't owe a dime, but I borrowed money to come to law school. I was under a significant amount of pressure. My oldest brother passed away. My credit was ruined. They were going to kick me out of law school. I got offered a job to sell golf clubs in Japan. My dad told me I was an idiot, who I wasn't very close with. He left when I was 5 years old. Told me I was an idiot for going to law school and borrowing money, that I should sell something and make money. But my ethics changed 9 months out of law school because I was a millionaire. And I then made a decision that money bought happiness, because I was just so happy that I'd worked so hard. And the only time I was happy as a kid, by the way, right? I'm not one of those kids that say, I was living in Akron, Ohio, poor with this apartment and things sucked. They didn't. They were awesome, except for when I caught my mom crying because a car broke down, or couldn't send us to summer camp, or she was worried about some financial thing like eating. But for me, ethically, I thought money, it bought happiness, and it was really important. So I lived my life that way, continued to make money. In 1995, we sold West Publishing, West Law, Legal Research Online, for $3.4 billion. And there wasn't many billionaires back then. So it was an extremely blessed event. Once again, solidifying how important money was in business. My life changed even more dramatically. All types of opportunities arose. I started branding myself as a technology guru in the internet. I went to the Silicon Valley, was offered opportunities. I took one with Accenture. I raised $169 million for a startup in the wireless proxy server space, transcoding the internet onto WAP phones, which were flip phones. We don't use those anymore. By the time I was 32, I was a multimillionaire. I married the girl that I fell in love with in the 4th grade, who hated me. I actually asked her to go study at 6th grade camp, and she said no in front of everyone, so I threw an egg at her. She forgave me. I had 3 beautiful daughters, and I literally, for the first time in my life, wasn't happy. That was a public company I was running. It was the world's first smartphone for Samsung. So I was a young CEO of a public company, and my ethics were changing. My ethics were changing, which made me really empty, because I started realizing that money wasn't buying me happiness. I lied in bed. I bought things, Ferraris, Porsches, motorhomes, boats, huge homes. I had a golf course, a ski mountain, 33 different properties. I bought more things and different things, and I couldn't seem to find happiness at all. I couldn't seem to find happiness because I had no true intent. When we talk about ethics, my ethics, money was a vehicle to help my mom, right? And then when that was gone, it was like, okay, I can provide to myself and my wife and my kids. And pretty soon I was just overflowing and just doing stupid stuff. It was meaningless. And so the company grew to be the 2nd largest manufacturer of phones in the world. They asked me to leave because I wasn't capable of running that company. My skills, I'm a great salesperson. And the way that I learned to sell wasn't as ethical. It wasn't ethical at all, because I learned to sell by manipulating people. I was well trained. I worked really hard, but I oversold people. I back-end sold people. I manipulated people. I lied to people so I could make money. And I did that as an executive. I trained people to oversell, back-end sell, and manipulate. And it was okay because everyone does it. They still do it today. And the irony was when people did it to me, because I was so aware of it, nothing made me matter than when someone did it to me, manipulate me, lie to me, oversell, or back-end sell. And the reason that it made me so upset is because it's the one thing that I hated about myself. So of course it made me mad. In fact, it was the one thing I hated about my father. I hated the fact that he was a bullshitter, excuse my language. I hated that he oversold, back-end sold. He was extremely successful, but I hated all of that. And the reason I hated it was I hated it about myself. Well, through that journey, the universe loves to teach us lessons. I surrounded myself with the wrong people and the wrong ideas. If I'm going to give you one piece of advice, it would be show me your friends and I'll show you your future. No matter how old you are or who you are, you're the aggregate of the 5 people you surround yourself with. You are the aggregate of the songs you listen to, the podcasts you listen to, the TV shows, the movies, the books you read. You are an aggregate of all of that energy. Don't fool yourself. You will take it on. Most people, if I ask them about their 5 best friends and what they do, they probably make about the median of what their 5 best friends do. It's an energy. And so I continue to go down the wrong path, and about 2 years before a very tragic event, I came home. I was intoxicated and probably on the influence of other things at 5 in the morning after lying to my wife. I was at that time a venture capitalist. I, wasn't an honest person. I lived in a life of blame, shame, and justification of everything that I did. Meanwhile, everybody wanted to be me. They loved me. They trusted me. I would give to tons of charities. I built schools, gave scholarships, all these great things for one reason, so that people would think that I was generous. That's why I did it. I did it because of the way I would love my name announced and everybody to thank me, my name everywhere. It was totally egotistical. I lived my life in ego. What does that mean? I lived my life with a need to be right, a need to be offended, a need to be resentful, a need to be separate, inferior, superior. I lived my life in a need to be fearful, anxious. In a world of not enough, no matter how much I had, there was still more. And you could matter as a business leader how the people that worked for me, what their value systems were. Well, 2 years before a very tragic event, my wife, as I came home at 5 in the morning from the Grammy Awards with Little John, if some of you might know that, my wife answered the door waiting for me, and I had told her I was going to go to a business meeting, and she said, "You are not a rock star." And I looked at her intoxicated. I'm like, "I may not be one, but I sure feel like one." And she said, "I'm not happy." First time in my marriage she ever expressed she wasn't happy. What I realized when she said it, and also told me that I better take stock in who I was and what I wanted to become, or she wasn't going to be with me anymore, it was a shock to me. But as I realized and lied in bed completely ashamed, right, and blame, shame, and justification, when I sat there in bed and realized every single person around me probably feels that way, that I'm an asshole. That every single person I got what I was bargaining for. I wanted everyone to respect me, but they probably knew why, because I was insecure. I was projecting my insecurity. I was buying all of my friends. It wasn't an ethical way. I wasn't living in integrity. And that left me feeling shallow, and that caused me to do all these things. So I went back and I started thinking about 4 things that I was going to take stock in that made me me, when I had the intent to be rich for the right reasons, to help people, truly unconditionally, no matter what, to help people. I wanted to buy my mom that house and a car. I thought about gratitude. Although I grew up with very little, I was so happy because I was grateful for everything I had. I remember going to McDonald's, all 6 of us, which was extreme. I caught your cold already? I'm kidding. remember going to McDonald's with 6 of us, so thrilled and grateful when my mom poured 2 big French fries in a bowl and let us share it. That was gratitude. I started realizing gratitude was so important, not only in my personal life, but to my business. I wanted to surround myself with people that were grateful. It's a perspective builder. I get to do everything in my life today. I don't have to do anything. I then thought about a very important thing, forgiveness. Anybody here ever make a mistake? Yeah, anyone ever here make a mistake today already? I know it's early. The majority of us have probably already made a mistake. I have. The amazing thing about forgiveness to me was there was only one person I had to forgive, and that was myself, right? We have to just forgive ourselves so we could forgive other people. I don't ever forgive anyone else because they deserve it. I forgive them because I deserve it. And I only forgive myself because I can't give what I don't have. And forgiveness brought me peace. I couldn't stumble over the roadblocks behind me, but I could change my future. The third thing was accountability. And these values are the 4 values that I built my business on. The third one is accountability. I ask myself 2 questions every day. What did I do to attract this to myself, and what am I supposed to learn from it? That gave me complete control of my life, both professionally and personally. What did I do to attract this to myself, and what am I supposed to learn from it? Now it gets confusing because a lot of people confuse accountability with liability. Right? I'm sitting at a stop sign, someone slams into the back of me while they're texting. Are you telling me I'm accountable? Yes. I'm also telling you that person's liable, right? We have cases and statutes and state and federal laws. Call the insurance company. Don't tell the judge that you're accountable. He won't understand it. He'll think that's liability. But there's a huge difference between accountability and liability. There's a huge difference in ethics between laws and ethics. Let me give you an example. 10 years ago, if you were sitting in California smoking dope, that was unethical or illegal or both. Does anyone know? If you were smoking marijuana 10 years ago in California on the boardwalk in South Mission Beach, is that unethical 10 years ago? No answers. How about illegal? Was it illegal? Yeah. So here's the distinction. It was illegal, and therefore breaking a law that we've all agreed upon in a social contract by the ways our government's born is unethical. But smoking marijuana in itself, without any laws, is not unethical. Just like there's no morals in your subconscious or unconscious mind. So there's a distinction when we're talking about business ethics, because we all agree upon laws. If you're going to live in the United States, we all have a social contract to agree upon laws. And when you break a law, it's unethical. But it doesn't mean the action in which you're participating in is unethical. Right? Because today, smoking marijuana on the boardwalk in South Mission Beach is legal. The ethics of smoking marijuana hasn't changed at all. The ethics of breaking a law has. Does everybody understand that? Because it's really important in business, because that distinction is made all the time in business, where people are arguing about the ethics of an activity, and sometimes you have to remind executives and managers and employees, hold on a second, it's illegal. And breaking the law is unethical. Changing the law is not, right? Fighting to change a law, not unethical. Right, so your opinion, if you're out there saying, we should change the Electoral College, right? That's not illegal to say, right? But it's not unethical to think either. To change the law, it's not unethical to think. So take a harder position, abortion. Right, that's a hard position to take. The law states that having an abortion is legal. Is it ethical? We could argue all day long whether it's ethical or not. But breaking that law would be unethical.
The example I usually use is the civil rights movement, like sitting in a restaurant, right?
Right.
Or giving up your seat to a white lady or something like that. It's if you refuse to do it, is that immoral or something like that? So
yeah.
But yeah.
And it's interesting because 2 years after my wife sent me on my journey, at that time, I became CEO of Lee Steinberg Sports and Entertainment. And I represented who later would be my business partner in my current business, a guy named Warren Moon. Warren Moon was a African-American quarterback who had won the Rose Bowl as a huge underdog to Michigan. He went to University of Washington. He was the MVP of the Rose Bowl, highly touted football player, and he wanted to play quarterback in 1978. And Warren Moon, they actually said that he wasn't intelligent enough to play quarterback because of the color of his skin. Immoral, unethical. This is the NFL. This is a powerful group of people. Not only did they tell him that, they said, but you're welcome to play wide receiver and we'll pay you $1 million. We're ethical people. We're good people. We're going to give you a job. He refused. So he had to go to Canada, not for 1 year, not just Canada, not like Vancouver or Toronto, Canada, but Edmonton, Canada. He's from Los Angeles, so you can imagine the sacrifice and belief that he had in his own ethics of changing the world. He went to Canada not for 1 year and won the Grey Cup, which is their Super Bowl, not for 2 years and won the Grey Cup again, not for 3 years, not for 4 years and won the Grey Cups, not for MVP, not the 5th year, right, and won Grey Cups and the MVP, but 6 years. 6 years in Edmonton, Canada, holding to his belief and his ethics that regardless of the color of my skin, I should be the face of a franchise. I'm the best quarterback. And after 6 years of that ethical battle, he won and he became the highest paid player in the NFL and played quarterback for the Houston Oilers. And played till he was 44 years old, broke almost every record in the NFL before Brett Favre broke his, and was the first African-American quarterback in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. He was also the only player ever to be inducted in the CFL and the NFL, the Pro Football Hall of Fame. That might not sound like a business issue, but that was my business. Sports agency was my business. And within that, we have to deal in sports agency with a bunch of ethical decisions, right? Which bothered me because a lot of times athletes that you represented weren't ethical. And so representing someone that isn't ethical is a business issue for me, which is the absolute reason why Warren Moon and I spun off Sports One Marketing, because we decided that we were going to change the way we did things. 2 years after my wife confronted me, by the way, and I became CEO and I met Warren Moon, I lost everything. Even though I changed my life, all the things that I put into play, I lost over $100 million. And today, that's still the best thing that ever happened to me. I'm not sure if I didn't lose everything, I could have reformulated and recalculated and created a business, Sports One Marketing, based on gratitude, empathy, accountability, and finally effective communication. We have one of the biggest and most notable sports agencies or marketing companies in the world based off of 3 things. Number 1, making a lot of money. 2, helping a lot of people. And 3, having a lot of fun. Warren and I built a business. People ask, why do you have to make a lot of money first? Because you can't give what you don't have. Money doesn't buy happiness, but it allows you to shop. And shopping is what makes you happy. Last year I got to shop. It was my 50th birthday. I did 50 birthday parties around the world for charity, and I was able to shop for 2 huge community centers in Africa that impact millions of people. I could have done that without money. This is probably the most extraordinary thing I've been able to do in my entire life, and I've been able to do some really cool stuff. But money allows me to shop. I believe that profitability has nothing to do with ethics. There's 2 things that have to do with excess. What are you doing to become profitable, and what are you going to do with the profits? That's the ethical issue. That's the moral issue. I went from being a manipulator to get my profits into being a motivator, to waking up every morning and praying to God for more than 10 people that I can help. to empowering everyone that I work with to make mistakes and to provide value first. Unconditionally provide value. Does that mean that we sit around meditating, getting high on our mom's couch, praying, walking the streets of Calcutta, giving away everything that we don't have? No, that's not what we do. We are productive and accessible. We're as productive as we can. What does that mean? We produce value. We produce value. In a business deal, we don't negotiate. We simply provide value. I call it a 120 rule. We want to provide $100 worth of value and only ask for 20 back. Because I know if I offered you a $100 bill and said, would you give me $20? Can you see any reason you won't want to do that? No. So why would anyone else? Why would anyone else? That's the goal of what we do in our business, providing value first. And then when we receive the value, unconditionally give it away. What we realize is there's three worlds. One is a world of not enough. And it's a perceived world. It doesn't matter what you have. I have a friend that has a $40 million home, and I tell him all the time, you're the scarcest person I've ever met. How is it that you are a victim and you live in a world of not enough all the time? There's not enough. I need an $80 million house, or I need enough. I've lived in that world, and everything happens to him. He's a victim. Then there's another world of just enough. That's a world that I lived in for a long time. No matter what I had, it was just enough. When I was really poor, it was just enough. When I was really rich, it was just enough. I always lived in this energy of just enough, and everything happened for me, so I was a manipulator. It was all for me. And then although I gave some away, it had an intent that was for me as well, right? For the bet. There was always a trade involved with giving, right? If I gave you something, there was a trade, which caused a great resentment all the time because nobody could ever live up to, because when I gave, they thought it was unconditionally. They couldn't live up to, whether it was my mom, my siblings, or et cetera. I'd say, oh, I can't believe they didn't invite me to the Padre game. I gave him a down payment for his house. That's a trade. You put yourself in a bad position. Well, I lived in that world of just enough, and now I not only run a business, but personally live in a world of more than enough. There's more than enough of everything for everyone. Therefore, it allows me to provide value, to be productive and accessible. What's accessible? Accessible to other people to provide service and value, as well as accessing what I want. It's just as important to receive as it is to give. Most people, anybody here like to give? Yeah, anyone here like to receive? It's funny because I always wish you were looking from this side up, because when I say, and our professor can see it, when I say who likes to give, everybody goes like this. When you say receive, there's a hesitation on those who did. There shouldn't be, yeah. And then people didn't raise their hand. I always say, although I was really wealthy, I had a problem receiving because I didn't think I was worthy. I carried all these energies and thoughts, consciously, subconsciously, and unconsciously, that I wasn't worthy of what I had because my mom worked so hard for $17,000 a year. I couldn't imagine how I was more valuable than that. And I felt bad about what I received. I also felt bad about what I received because I manipulated people to get it. And what I did with it was manipulative as well. Profitability is awesome if you get it the right way and you do the right things with it. You go shopping for the right things. It's really important, and that's true with a business. You can be a merchant servant. And I wrote a book called Compassionate Capitalism. And I believe the difference between someone who provides value and makes money for the greater good, it's only energy, it's effort. It's asking that question, being more interested than interesting. The way that I do it is I see life in a very simple way. I'm productive and accessible. I ask people, how can I be of service? How can I provide value? I listen, and then I ask for help. I receive. I create a flow by asking people, do you know anyone that can help me? This is what's valuable for me. I find, without negotiating in a scarce manner, when I believe there's enough of everything for everyone, I live in a world of more than enough, I just pursue that potential in a negotiation. I'm one of the best negotiators in the world. They ask me to write books about negotiation, and I do it in a very weird way. I ask people what they like and what they don't like. I ask the reasons that they do things and the reasons they like it and don't like it. I ask them the impact that they want to have and what they like about it and what they don't like about it. I ask the capabilities that they have, want, or need and what they like about it and what they don't like about it. Do you know why I ask them what they like about and what they don't like about it? Does anyone know why I ask that? Because people buy on emotion for logical reasons. So in a negotiation, if you can connect emotionally, then you can sell. People buy on emotion for logical reasons. If anyone ever gets married, and I love when my wife comes home and says, oh, I bought this dress, it was $2,000 off. I saved you this much money. I'm like, no, you didn't save me any money. What did it cost? Right? And fair enough to her, when I bought my first Ferrari and justified to her in a whole bunch of different ways what a wise investment the Ferrari was. People buy on emotion for logical reasons. I will tell you, Ferraris are, for me, I learned a lot. You drive them a lot, they break down. You drive them a little bit, they break down. If you think people are going to be impressed by you, most of them think you're an a-hole. If you think girls are going to date you, all they're going to realize is that what your true anatomy is really like. I didn't see anything really great emotionally about a Ferrari after I got it, but I bought it on emotion. People buy on emotion. People also, they don't want to be sold to. They want to go shopping with a friend. That's why trust and like is so important in business as well. In the long run, everything vibrates. When I went on to what I call this quantum shift in my life, this transformation of value, from taking to truly unconditionally giving, to trusting the universe, giving faith in the universe, what I realized, I met this woman, I was going to India, and she sat next to me and she looked at me and she said, are you okay? Now at that time I was that arrogant asshole, the manipulator that I was telling you about. So I looked at her literally thinking in my head, am I okay? Do you know who I am? Like, yeah, I'm okay. She said, I go, why? She said, well, because you're so full of light, but you're blocking it. I immediately rolled my eyes, like this is gonna be the longest trip to India of my life. I said, what do you mean by that? She goes, well, do you meditate? I'll never forget, do you meditate? I literally, this is how I answered. I'm embarrassed to tell you, but not really, because I want you to learn from it. I looked at her, I'm like, meditate? Are you kidding me? I don't have time to meditate. I am a multi-millionaire. I own a Ferrari and a Porsche. I have a gorgeous wife, 3 gorgeous kids, a huge home, a boat. I have a golf course, a ski mountain, 33 other investment properties. I travel around the world. I can buy whatever I want. Why the F would I meditate? Only people that I know that meditate are high, sick, broke on their mom's couch. Those are meditators. Why would I meditate? And she said to me, because everything vibrates. And I can teach you to vibrate faster. Thank you. That's exactly. My arms were crossed. I was, excuse me, I caught your cold. Excuse me, too much travel. But I did. I was just like you, are you kidding me? So I said, well, what does vibration have to do with meditation? And she said, the earth vibrates the slowest, then plants, animals, humans, then light, then sound, and then thought. And then she changed my life because she said, you know what thought vibrates the fastest? I was puzzled by it, but really interested now. I said, what vibrates the fastest? She said, the truth. The truth vibrates the fastest and you're blocking your truth. It was like she looked right through my soul that I was a manipulator, a liar. Everything about what I had achieved, which some of it is extraordinary. Young people look on it and go, oh, I'd love to have that experience. But it was based off of a lie, right? I wasn't my own frequency. I was what everyone wanted me to be, what I thought I was supposed to be. There was no truth to it. I didn't have my own frequency. So I actually ended up staying and learning to meditate. I meditate every day for 20 minutes a day. It's the best thing that I can do, and the reason it's the best thing I can do is because I find my center, and it allows me to be aware of when I'm acting out of ego. So if I start having a need to be afraid, need to be anxious, attacking, fearful, right, separate, inferior, superior, all the things that are not putting me on the trajectory, on the enjoyment of the consistent, everyday, persistent, without quit, pursuit of my truth or potential, then I know it. Because I know what meditation, I know what that center feels like. I know what joy feels like. I know what peace feels like. And I know where the efficiencies, effectiveness, and statistical success of my life happen. Since bankruptcy 11 years ago, I have not only recovered financially, but I live my life of service. I have an extraordinary business, many businesses. I'm a top 50 business coach in the world. I have a TV show that has 40 million viewers called Elevator Pitch. I have a top 5 business podcast. I speak around the world. And most importantly, I live as close to the truth as I can. Right? I'm still a hypocrite. I still every day, still make mistakes every day. I still learn from them. I still, when I write a check to charity, have a fear sometimes like, oh my gosh, you know how expensive Tulane is? I have 4 kids and only one's in college right now. What if this all happens? That goes through my mind. I walk by somebody sometimes and I could have helped them and I don't. But I don't do it as often, not nearly as often. And I catch myself when I'm off center and I don't waste time, energy, emotion. Thinking about mistakes, my favorite thing to think about because I love them. I don't like to make them twice, but I know if I'm making mistakes, I'm growing and learning. I actually give a bonus. I have a dummy tax award in my business where everyone goes around and tells what mistake they made, why they made it, how they made it, what they learned from it, and then I give a big bonus for whoever made the biggest mistake. Because I want people to be encouraged to making a mistake once. But here's the sad thing about mistakes. How much time, energy, emotion, and resources have we wasted beating ourselves up about mistakes? And we make them every day, some of us every hour. Even worse, how much time, money, resources have we wasted on mistakes that other people have made, which are the same mistakes that we make? How many relationships have we lost because we projected our own insecurities about those mistakes? As this all comes back full circle to ethics, I believe that personal, professional, business ethics, and personal ethics revolve around one thing. Those 4 values: personal, experiential, giving and receiving, and knowing what those are. Finding your own frequency and being able to stand up and stay with them, even though people think, I am what I do, I am what I have, and I am what other people think of me. You're not. You're not what you have, you're not what you do, and you're not what other people think of you. You're those values. You're those values: personal, experiential, giving, and receiving. And I would encourage you to live with gratitude, accountability, forgiveness, and effective communication. If you can effectively communicate first with what inspires you and allow it to come through you for the benefit of others. Does anyone know what the word appreciation means? That's how I know how participants. Anyone know what appreciation means? Come on, this is Tulane. Nobody? You know what appreciation. I'll give you a book. What's the word appreciation mean? Yeah, there we go. Anybody know that and didn't say? All right, good. Got a couple honest people there. That's business ethics right there. Someone actually is being honest. Yes, I knew what it meant too. When we allow things that inspire us to come through us and appreciate them, first say thank you, even though we may not wonder or think why we should be thankful for being pulled over or someone hitting us from behind, or right? Because miracles are in the lessons of what are happening to us. We attracted it. But more importantly, whatever comes to us comes through us with appreciation. Gratitude, the other definition of appreciation is if your house appreciates, it does what? Gains value. I'm an appreciator. I'm a motivator, not a manipulator. I add value to everything I receive by allowing it to come through me and finding the right person that is valuable for, or right organization, or right cause, or right purpose that is appropriate for. That's how it works. I'm an appreciator. I'm grateful and I add value and I give it away. In the universe, instead of things happening to you in a world of not enough, or for you where you're only so big and you're not growing, if you allow things to come through you, the universe keeps expanding you so more can come through you. And that's the way you manifest everything that you want. That's the way you live a passionate, purposeful, and profitable life. That to me is how I run an ethical business, based off of my own frequency and values, off of gratitude, empathy, accountability, and effective communication. The more people that I can help, the money side of it, the business side of it, all those decisions become very simple when you know where you stand, when you have a frequency. It only gets difficult when we don't have clarity, balance, and focus and confidence in who we are. Clarity, balance, and focus and confidence in who we are. And it's okay. You're not what you do, you're not what you have, and you're not what other people think of you. If you're whatever other else thinks of you, you'll have too many reputations. Some will be too high and some will be too low. Know yourself. That's what I believe business ethics are, that frequency. All right, I got 5 minutes if anyone has any questions. Hopefully that was a different perspective on ethics and useful in any way. I'm not gonna ask you to raise your hand. I'd say this though, if you thought that was an exceptional speech and you learned a ton, don't raise your hand. Perfect. Tricky, huh? I'm sorry.
I have a question. You mentioned asking your workers to share the mistakes that they've made or something. I think that you're not encouraging them to make mistakes, but rather to just sort of own up to it and be forthright about it and learn from it. So does that cultivate like what effect does that have on the sort of culture of the business?
So I believe that everyone's going to make mistakes, whether I encourage them to make them or not. I think by allowing them to express the mistakes and learn how we all make the same mistakes, right? So if I put them here and you share your mistake and what you learn from it, everyone else can learn from it, that pay the dummy tax without everyone else. I also think it does allow them to feel comfortable to take chances. We're gonna make mistakes anyway. But in the same respect, people are still, there's so many mistakes that we make. The danger of it, what happened was, as it became too common, is that people would exaggerate their mistakes so that they would win the bonus. It's true, they did. All of a sudden, it's like, all right, I'm not gonna give you the bonus. It's just human nature. I study a lot of history because, human nature never changes. And if I can understand human nature, I can make really good decisions. And I believe everyone makes good decisions, but I look more on the assumptions that I make on the decisions. In fact, people ask me how you lost all that money. I made one bad assumption. And because I didn't ask for help, I assumed that because I had a ton of equity, that at all times I could borrow against the equity I had. Little did I know that banks would go under and that they would rather have my property than let me borrow against my property. And that snowstorm turned into a terrible assumption. I was making good decisions as long as I assumed I could borrow against my properties. I would have been fine economically, but I think morally, ethically, I wouldn't have been able to make this huge transformation to live my life of service. And problem. No questions? Nobody, nothing of interest? All right. I'll try not to be offended. I'm going to leave you guys books if anyone wants. I'm an executive resident, so I'm going to be doing next month one-on-one meetings. If anyone wants, reach out to Byron in the Career Center. He suggested that. You're welcome to follow me, kind of the old man of Instagram, but I have some pretty good videos if you want to reach out and DM me. It's just my name, @DavidMeltzer. So I appreciate your time and hopefully make a little bit of a difference, at least in your day. Thank you. Thank you so much.